Continuing my journey through the New Teen Titans, I now come to the New Teen Titans Volume 10. So this is a series of comics which were published between July 1985 and December 1985 in the New Teen Titans comic book in high quality print edition. And then they were republished 9 months later in a cheaper form in Tales of the Teen Titans between September 1986 and February 1987. And it is the cheap reprints, Tales of the Teen Titans, that I am familiar with because I came upon these issues in the early 1990s when they were in my local comic book store in the 3 for $1 bin. And there was a whole collection of Teen Titans comics, and once I fell in love with them, I bought them all at 3 for $1. And looking through, the back of this book contains the cover for the Tales of the Teen Titans reprints. And looking at these covers, I had all of these in my collection at one time. I don't know what happened to them. My mother or my brother got rid of them after I went to college or something. But when I was a young teenager, I had all of these issues. Although, I do have to say, when I look at these covers, it doesn't fill me with an overwhelming sense of pleasant nostalgia. I look at these covers and I think, I remember these as kind of being meh issues. I just have an overwhelming meh feeling when looking at these particular covers. Not the whole series, but these particular issues. And sure enough, rereading them, I feel overwhelmingly meh. These are not great issues. These are passable, but they're not great. They're a little bit boring. They're just very much meh. So a criticism which is often made of the New Teen Titans is that they started off great, but at a certain point they began to stagnate as author Marv Wolfman ran out of ideas. And I think, I hate to say it, but I think we can see some of this stagnation happening here. But the other thing which is going on is that these issues are happening at the time that DC is doing their famous Crisis reboot. And you can see that some of these issues are the Crisis crossover. So the Titans are having their own adventures, but this is all happening at the same time that the Crisis is happening in the DC universe. And who was doing the Crisis? Well, actually, they advertise a copy of the Crisis at the back of this volume, so we can flip over. Yeah, Crisis on Infinite Earths, none other than Marv Wolfman and George Perez, the creators of the Teen Titans. Now, George Perez, at this point in Teen Titans, has left the building. He is no longer the artist on the Teen Titans. Although I hate to say this, we largely don't miss him in these issues. Or at least I don't. It's difficult for me to... I don't really notice any drop in quality in the artwork here. These characters seem like the same old characters we've always been following. So I think this comic survived very well, even without George Perez. Or sorry, the artwork did, at least. We'll get to the storytelling in a moment. I think the art survived just as well without George Perez. I know that might be a controversial opinion. But anyways, yeah, Marv Wolfman was writing these issues, I guess at the same time he was writing Crisis on Infinite Earths. So his attention may have been distracted, and that may explain some of these issues which seem to be a little bit on autopilot. And if memory serves, the stories are going to get more interesting subsequently. So we're going through a little bit of a run of boring issues, but if memory serves, the quality is going to pick back up in the next few issues. Now, of course, I'm relying off of 30-year-old memories here, so we'll see how well that prognostication actually holds up when I get to the subsequent volumes. But my memory is it does actually get a lot better before it stagnates again. So we'll see about that in future videos. But here we are going through these issues. So we start up wrapping up the storyline where we last left off, where Lilith becomes a god. Nightwing says, hard to believe though, when the Titans first met her, she was a disco dancer. Yeah, this was a reference I don't think I caught when I first read these comics, but now that I've read some collections of the original Teen Titans from the 1960s, I now have read that issue where Lilith starts out as a disco dancer. But yeah, Lilith's storyline is done, which means that this angel creature is left over. And this, I don't know if this was just poor planning or if I missed something, but when this angel creature was introduced, much was made of the fact that he and Lilith both sensed they had some sort of destiny together. And then Lilith becomes a god and exits stage right, and that plot line abruptly is disregarded, and then we're just left with him being left over, and he flies away, and later he gets recruited by Brother Blood's church. So, yeah, that was a whole lot of build-up of Lilith and his relationship for nothing, but okay. Meanwhile, we have Cole, who also came from this adventure up in Olympus. Now, I mentioned this in one of my previous reviews, but I read somewhere or other, I don't remember where I'd read this, but some interview with Marv Wolfman, where he said that for Crisis on Infinite Earths, apparently the rule at DC Comics was everyone had to submit a couple characters from their comic book to get killed off in Infinite Crisis. Just, to boost the sales by having lots of superheroes get killed off. Marv Wolfman didn't want to kill off any of his core characters, so he introduced Cole a few issues before Final Crisis. She becomes one of the Titans for a few issues, and then she gets killed off. Now, as characters go, I guess she's all right, but knowing that she's about to just get killed off in a few issues and that her only narrative purpose is to fulfill a quota of characters who have to get killed off, I somewhat resent the amount of focus that she gets here. That, they're trying to make us care about Cole with Cole's old origin story. Maybe we can see this clearer in the other. Yep. So the origin of Cole, the cover of this book here. Well, we go back and we meet Cole's parents, who are, I guess, doomsday preppers. They are preparing humanity for the new future by turning them into cockroaches, because cockroaches can survive a nuclear holocaust. There's also, let me see if I can find a panel here. Oh yeah, there's also this Cole romance with Joseph, Jericho character, where she is really in love with him, but he just wants to stay friends. Okay, it's a little bit of drama mixed in, but considering Cole is just only here to get killed off, it's ultimately meaningless. So, yeah, Cole's father believes that he's got to change everyone into insects to survive the upcoming ecological holocaust. So mankind has polluted our atmosphere, destroyed the ozone layer, ruined the quality of our air, poisoned our water and ground with pesticides. And nuclear war hangs over our heads like some trembling sword of Damocles. So that's why humankind has to be changed into an insect form so that they can be more sturdy to survive this coming ecological disaster, because insects and cockroaches can survive anything. It's interesting that in all this list of impending disasters, global warming is nowhere on the list, because that's what everybody is obsessed with nowadays. But I guess that's just an indication of how late that issue came to the public consciousness. I guess nobody was talking about global warming in 1985. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course. So anyways, we get these thing with Cole's parents, and that storyline is okay. And then we get a ghost story where there's this girl ghost who's haunting the Titans and leading them to find out the answer to a 60-year-old murder, or 50-year-old murder, maybe. It's all right. It doesn't really make a lot of sense why this ghost is just showing up now and etc. But okay, it's all right. But it's a little bit boring. Then we get Titans, the New Teen Titans Annual number 2, I believe, which is, this is something. So we get talking about Joe. First of all, it's told from the perspective of Joe Wilson. Now, Joe Wilson is introduced as the new Titan, but he is really one of the most boring characters in the Titans. And the way the narration around him is always praising him as so peaceful and beautiful and serene just really bugs me. I mean, for one thing, the character just comes across as so bland that for us to really buy into what a wonderful person he is, the narration just has to tell us explicitly. And for example here, a thought flitters past his sea-green eyes like the fireflies sparkling outside his window. It's just always talking about how his eyes are so peaceful and calming, and how everybody loves him, etc. Sorry, that's just a digression. For whatever reason, Annual 2 has Joe Wilson reading the files to read about a past Titan adventure. So we go back in time to the point when Tara was still on the team, because it's before her death. And at this point, Kid Flash and Dick Grayson are both on hiatus from the team. So, I guess points for remembering continuity, remembering that there was a period when Robin retired from the team before Dick Grayson joined it. But I don't understand why we have to go back in time for this adventure. Like, why couldn't this adventure just have been set in the present timeline of the Teen Titans? I don't know. I always find it a little bit boring to read about an adventure that happened previously, because it takes away all the suspense. Like, you know that nothing big is going to happen to change any of these characters, because this is a story that already took place like 2 years ago. and that we're just inserting here for some reason. The other thing is that this story introduces a new superhero team, the Vanguard. And even without, I mean, I looked this up on Wikipedia and on the DC Comics fandom wiki, but even without looking it up, it's obvious that this is a new superhero team which is supposed to be introduced so that they can go off and have their own adventures and maybe get spun off into their own comic. But they are just so boring. I mean, they have different powers, but they don't have any personality at all. This is the lamest group you can possibly imagine. And then, sure enough, at the end, we get, want to see more of the Vanguard? Right now to the Vanguard, care of Titans Tower, DC Comics, etc. So they did give fans an opportunity to write in and talk about how much they love the Vanguard. But if you go to the wiki, DC Fandom Wiki, this is the only issue that the Vanguard ever appeared in. I mean, it looks like they're also included in some DC Comics encyclopedias, but this looks like it was their only story. Which is not surprising. I can't imagine anyone would want to write in and ask for some more of this team. They have no personality at all. And it's a little bit stunning that Marv Wolfman could slip up this much, because he knew exactly what he was doing when he created the new Teen Titans, right? He was creating this team that had all these different vibrant characters and character dynamics and different triangles playing off of each other. And then, I mean, a man who is smart enough about character to do all that, to just create these 5 bland characters and expect anybody to want to write in and see more adventures about them. I don't know. Maybe his attention was really distracted by Crisis, or I don't know what's going on here. But yeah, so speaking of Crisis, I think the Crisis is coming up next. Now, Crisis is, well, it's a whole nother video on its own, really. It's a very convoluted event in DC Comics. And I've talked about it before in previous videos, and I'll try and remember to leave a link to one of those previous videos. But essentially what's going on is, up until this point, DC Comics has dealt with its various inconsistencies in different characters by having a multiverse. So different characters exist in different universes. But then there's a crisis where the multiverse is being destroyed, and then it all gets resolved into one universe. So after Crisis, all the adventures are only taking place in one universe, and you no longer have to keep track of which characters are in which universe. And in the course of doing so, it essentially erased 50 years of DC Comics continuity. Except the Titans don't really seem to be that affected by the Crisis. Their story picks up right after the Crisis, exactly like it was before the Crisis, with all their previous continuity seemingly still in play. Although this was always the big question after Crisis: what's still in continuity and what's not. Yeah, and you know, I think if you go far enough forward in Titans history, some of the minor characters like Harlequin, the Joker's daughter, do kind of get their origins rewritten in post-Crisis, but that's a ways down the road. Certainly for the main storyline, it doesn't seem to affect it at all. Now, when I first picked these issues up in the early 90s, this was before the internet, so I couldn't look up what Crisis was. I hadn't been reading comic books in the 1980s, So I had completely missed this when it was coming out. I would have been a bit too young to understand the concept of multiverses anyways. So I had no idea what this was. I mean, it was obvious that something was going on, but you read it. It gets real confusing because there's a bunch of stuff going on. And yeah, here's pictures of that bunch of stuff going on. Some big event which is all over time and space. And then it continues in the next issue, kind of, although they largely just disregard it. So Nightwing says, "Why now, Chorus? There's a crisis going on. We need your power here." But it is seemingly abated. The universe is apparently normal again. And her duties as princess are demanded on Tamaran. So, the crisis is still going on, but I guess nobody's paying attention to it. We've got other storylines to work through. Cole is still around. So she gets killed off somewhere in the crisis. I guess this must be towards the end of the crisis. The other two Titans of note to get killed off in the crisis, and they're both minor characters, is Aqua Girl and Dove. And none of this happens inside the pages of the Teen Titans. This happens in the pages of Crisis. But it will be milked for drama and pathos in the later Titans issue, because Aqua Lad is going to be really upset about the death of Aqua Girl, and Hawk is going to be really upset about the death of his brother Dove. This is somewhat of a digression, but like I said, I read these new Teen Titans issues before I ever got my hands on a Crisis reprint. And when you actually read the Crisis story, it's rather surprising to see how little space is given to these characters getting killed off. I mean, Aqua Girl is killed off in a blink and you miss it. It's just like in the corner of a panel somewhere. The same with Dove getting killed off, I believe. So it happens just very offhandedly in the Crisis magazine itself, but in future issues it will reverberate through the Titan storylines as the angst about these dead characters will become plot points. But anyways, what is going on in the actual Titans comic itself? Well, we are largely just replaying plot lines that have already been played out in the comic earlier. And again, that's where I guess the issue of stagnation might come in. So Cyborg being upset because Sarah Sims is with a different man. We've seen this a couple times before now in the Titans comics. Now, in the past, he always thought she was in a romantic relationship with another man, and that turns out it was a misunderstanding. Here she really is in a romantic relationship with another man, but it just seems like, this again. Meanwhile, Steve Dayton is going insane because of his helmet. We've seen this before. Meanwhile, Coriander, Starfire, is going back to her home planet to battle her evil sister. We've seen this before. Meanwhile, Raven is struggling to contain her evil self and is wandering around lost and away from anybody. And we've seen that before. So all of these are... And to a certain extent, comic books are always bringing back reoccurring bad guys. So we've got the Church of Brother Blood as well, reestablishing itself. And again, we've seen that before. But okay, fair enough. They're a reoccurring villain. But it's all a bunch of stuff we've seen before. And you get the feeling that these characters are all in holding patterns. And the new characters that get introduced are just really boring, like Joseph Wilson or Cole or the Vanguard in the annual. So, yeah, between all of that, you can see where people make the accusation that the Teen Titans became stagnant after a bit. But if memory serves, there are some very good issues to come. And also, I guess what's unique about this is the storylines are now much more interwoven in a way that they were not before. So previously we'd have one storyline and then another and then another. Now it's all interwoven, so it's all happening simultaneously. So, you know, this Steve Dayton losing his mind and being controlled by his helmet, if memory serves, that's going to drag on for many more issues before it finally gets resolved, in part because it's being juggled among other plot lines. And I guess you could look at that as a negative or a positive. I mean, to a certain extent, you almost get a little sick of this plot line by the time it gets resolved, but it is interesting how Marv Wolfman is able to keep a number of stuff on the back burner while he also goes and puts stuff on the front burner. Dick and Corey and Joseph, Jericho, go to the planet of Tamaran. Meanwhile, Raven and her mother are captured by Brother Blood. Brother Blood has also recruited the Angel character. Meanwhile, the rest of the Teen Titans are staying behind to deal with Steve Dayton. Cole is still around up until, I guess, the very last issue here. So, again, she must get killed off in the last issue of Crisis. I don't remember. The Crisis on Tamaran, like a lot of the Tamaran is Starfire's home planet. Like a lot of the Tamaran stories, doesn't really make a lot of sense, and again is somewhat repetitive of what we've seen before, where Corey is being sold out by her father. There is an interesting origin story to Starfire's father, Meander. Marv Wolfman says in one of the introductions that the name Meander was specifically chosen to describe kind of a weak king, somebody who meanders and is not decisive. But actually, Marv Wolfman gives him a bit of a background here where we see how from his background he sees everything get destroyed because his parents, or his father and his brothers, chose to fight instead of surrender. And so that's his origin story, and that's why he so strongly believes in surrendering the royal family in order to bring peace to Tamaran. So that's an interesting little bit of backstory there, giving some motivation to that character which had been previously lacking and making that character more sympathetic. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this. One point I didn't mention actually. Teen Titans Annual 2 also features Superman quite prominently. The Teen Titans are rescuing Superman. I mentioned before that the Teen Titans backstory, previous continuity, didn't seem to be affected by Crisis. But Superman is a character who was definitely affected by the Crisis reboot. So, makes you wonder if this story is still in continuity. And if it's not, why was this released right before Crisis erased the continuity? Who knows? Okay. Sorry, that was a little bit of a minor point, but something that occurred to me just as I was wrapping up this video. And now I'm going to wrap up this video. So, thank you very much, BookTube. and I will talk to you next time.